All right, welcome back to the foodie section of the program. We don't do this often enough. We're going to do it today because that brand new list, Best Restaurants in Canada for 2024, is out. And Montreal can be proud that for the second year in a row, Mon Lapin is ranked as number one. And nobody knows more about restaurants, food, than former Gazette food writer Lesley Chesterman, co-host of the Corner Booth podcast, who's on the line right now. Hi, Les.
Hi, Aaron.
So, look, this is kind of like your Super Bowl in a sense, isn't it? Getting to look at all this and go, look at this. We have, and by the way, you should mention, outside of having number one, we have, 28 in the top 100.
We do, but Toronto has more in the top 25. I mean, if we really want to look at this and be, I always think that like Montreal should have, 50 out of the top 100. That's kind of ridiculous. But I think what's really important about a Canadian list is that we have restaurants from all over. I mean, I don't see anything from Saskatchewan and not much from Newfoundland. Newfoundland used to be a really big hotbed of Canadian gastronomy, like all seriousness. And Newfoundland is there. I think there's one restaurant from Newfoundland, but Newfoundland at one point had the number one restaurant.
So I'm wondering, is the big story here, and I know we talked about this in the past, maybe last year when this came out, the fact that Toronto is becoming a bit of a culinary center?
Toronto's been kind of killing it for about 5 years now, maybe even longer. I think that a lot of Toronto chefs look to Montreal. They would say that too. Montreal's kind of the leader when it comes to trends or let's say like wine. We're kind of ahead on a lot of those things. Toronto is definitely catching up. I think that when you're in Toronto restaurants, to me, a lot of them feel like Montreal restaurants and they're kind of becoming more similar. But Toronto has a bigger population and a richer population, and they have a lot of tourists in Toronto too. So there are a lot of reasons that Toronto is doing better. But don't forget, you're paying a lot more for a restaurant in Toronto than in Montreal, and already it's expensive in Montreal, but it'll be even more expensive in Toronto or Vancouver.
So I will point out, by the way, so Mon Lapin, number one, we'll talk about them in a minute. The other one in the top 10 is Beba, which is a small place, I guess, in Verdun. Mm-hmm. How many of these, I'm curious, how many of these have you actually eaten at?
It's funny because I've eaten at a lot of them because in different times, the ones that are newer, I haven't eaten as to many of them because I'm not a restaurant critic anymore. Before, I had to eat at all of them. So a lot of them, if I look at a restaurant like, for instance, one that everybody's aware of is Joe Beef, and Joe Beef years ago was number one. Now it's number 41. So a lot of restaurants that have been around for a long time are still on the list because they're still good, but they're not in the top 10 anymore. I think it's not even that they're not as good as they used to be. I mean, I don't know because I'm not constantly going out to eat. It's just that we have to also make, the thing about restaurants that's exciting is new, hot, and happening, right? So that's what happens to restaurants. To keep up the level, okay, but to keep up the buzz, difficult.
That's a really good point. I look at the list and I see L'Express at number 53, and I think to myself, that's probably one that used to be in the top 10 on a consistent basis.
No, actually, interesting point is that L'Express was everybody kind of thought, oh, it's just a bistro. Le Mac is not on this list, and I think it's as good as L'Express. Nope, not at all. I just checked before we got on the phone. And but L'Express kind of became a mythic Montreal restaurant. The New York Times did a big story on it, and all the chefs are like, that's my favorite restaurant. So L'Express has kind of built up this big aura. If you go to Montreal and you're a food person, you better go to L'Express. So L'Express has kind of its own little world around it. But really, is L'Express any better than Le Mac? I don't really think so. I think they're probably just as good. And Le Mac would be just as crowded as L'Express. Yeah. But, maybe it's a little bit in with the judges, a little bit more branché, as we say.
Yeah, I love that in part. By the way, I will tell you, I looked at some of the pictures, which are really great because they put up one dish at each of these restaurants, right? And I'm looking at this and thinking, if you really like food, I'm not even sure you want to eat here. They look so minimalist. It's incredible.
Well, absolutely, and they are. When you go there, you're paying a lot of money sometimes for 3 oysters. But, eating has become something that you do not because you're hungry. Eating has become an experience, and you're going to eat things that you're not going to have at home. So as much as we used to go have like a steak and a baked potato, which I'm still a big fan of, notice Moishes is not here. Yeah. There are a lot of restaurants like that just aren't here. These are restaurants that are much more gastronomic in the sense that, a lot of diverse flavors on the plate, and you pay for it.
I mentioned when I say about minimalist, there's one called Langdon Hall, which is in Cambridge, right? And the picture on the review is a bowl of soup. And it's just, I don't know what it is, green soup. I
think there's some edible flowers in that
Yes,
bowl
there are.
There's some flowers in that soup. Who puts flowers in? I mean, Langdon Hall is an amazing place, too, because a lot of things at Langdon Hall, there's a great chef called Jason Bangerter, and he has a whole garden behind Langdon Hall. It's a Relais Chateau hotel in between Niagara on the Lake and Toronto. So of course, like all the people who want to go away for, a so-called dirty weekend or like a gourmet weekend, all the Torontonians go to Langdon Hall. It's like super chic but that soup would have been made from vegetables that come right from the backyard of the restaurant.
Yeah, and what soup if, as you said, there are no flowers? Let me go to a couple of these here that I'd not even heard of that are on the list. A place called Montreal Plaza. What is that? Do you know?
My God. Montreal Plaza to me is the most ultimate Montreal restaurant. The chefs, there are two chefs, Cheryl Johnson and Charles-Antoine Crête, and it's a really fun. Sometimes the chef Charles-Antoine gets dressed up as Elmo and walks through the dining room. You'll find like plastic dinosaurs on your plate. Oh yeah, it's a thing. And it's kind of the fun restaurant, but it's really professional and really good. Montreal Plaza they've been on the list for a few years. Charles-Antoine Crête worked for a long time at Tokay, but he's kind of gone off in a new direction. He has a new wine bar next door. Very great restaurant.
Where is this place?
Montreal Plaza is the Plaza Saint-Hubert. So down over near, near Beaubien and Saint-Hubert around there.
Then I saw another one I'd not heard of called Cabaret L'Enfer.
Oh, Cabaret L'Enfer is a great restaurant. Cabaret L'Enfer is a great restaurant, but I think it's kind of tasting menu format. It's not cheap, but the food is exquisite, really, really good. And the chef's name is Massimo. He is amazing. And that is really a restaurant that deserves. And I think last year they were much lower down on the list, so it's nice to see they've gone up on the list.
Yeah, they're 21 on the list. And then a couple people will recognize, like Tokay, always on the list. You mentioned Joe Beef. One that I'd never heard of as well, which has, I think, the best name. It's simply called Salle Climatisée.
Salle Climatisée, yeah. Now, I've not been to Salle Climatisée because I've never, it's a small place. The few times I've tried, I couldn't get in. But I hear it's very, very good, Salle Climatisée. I think there are a bunch of people who worked at Maison Publique, which was a restaurant that is now no longer, so it's not on the list. There's a nice little gem on the list called Bar Saint-Denis, which is on Saint-Denis, a little bit further north than kind of where the restaurants are. Very, very good.
I'll go back to the list because I run out of time. So to go back to Mont Lapin, and obviously I saw, the picture, Vanya's picture. She used to work at Joe Beef, Liverpool, whatever, years ago. What makes this so incredible? Why is this number one on the list in your opinion?
I think that the chef too, Marc-Olivier Frappier, I think he and Vanya, and there's also a woman chef, excuse me, right now her name escapes me, but I think what they really have nailed is experience, and I think that she's an amazing sommelier. They're a couple in real life. He is an amazing cook. They have the innovative side. They had service. Her wine service is bar none, really. She's one of the first people to really push natural wines in a restaurant, but do it in a very smart way. They're seasoned pros, and I think they're seasoned pros with a lot of imagination. And, you can go to a restaurant that's very professional, that's extremely boring, and you can go to a restaurant that's extremely creative, but a mess. God knows I've seen them all. But this place really has captured the spirit of Montreal that, it is a very professional dining side, and yet it's still a lot of fun and very creative, local products. I mean, that goes without saying now that people are using local products, but they're true diehard professionals, those two.
Is it super expensive?
Yes. Well, of course, what's interesting about these lists is there's number 2 is a restaurant called Edulis in Toronto, and I wanted to go there. And I booked last time I was in Toronto, and they recently got a Michelin star because the Toronto restaurants got a Michelin. The Michelin Guide came in, and as soon as they got a Michelin star, I mean, I don't know how quickly they put up the prices, but I expected to pay about $125 for a tasting menu, and I believe it's closer to $200 now.
Wow. Okay.
So I did not push that reservation. I went somewhere else.
Yeah, I will mention if you try to go to Mont Lapin, if you want to go tonight, for example, your only reservation is at 9:30 this evening, and good luck trying to get one for the rest of the week. So
wow. Well, the fact that there's a table available tonight is really something. So whoever wants to go nab it,
9:30. That's your only time. Lesley, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on.
My pleasure.
Take good care. Lesley Chesterman, there you go. That list, Canada's 100 best restaurants. Yes, we are number 1, Mont Lapin, for the second time in a row, and 28 of 100 based here in Montreal if you want to check it out online.